السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ. بیٹھ جاؤ بیٹھ جائیں تشریف رکھیں. سید جاذب احمد تلاوت.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أطيعوا الله والرسول فإن تولوا فإن الله لا يحب الكافرين. إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوحا وآل إبراهيم وآل عمران على العالمين ذرية بعضها من بعض والله سميع عليم. إذ قالت امرأة عمران رب إني نذرت لك ما في بطني محررا فتقبل مني إنك أنت السميع العليم. جزاك الله.
شاہ زیب نیئر اردو ترجمہ.
سورہ آل عمران آیات 33 تا 36 کا ترجمہ بیان فرمودہ حضرت خلیفۃ المسیح الرابع رحمہ اللہ پیش ہے. اللہ کے نام کے ساتھ جو بے انتہا رحم کرنے والا، بن مانگے دینے والا اور بار بار رحم کرنے والا ہے. تو کہہ دے اللہ کی اطاعت کرو اور رسول کی، پس اگر وہ پھر جائیں تو یقیناً اللہ کافروں کو پسند نہیں کرتا. یقیناً اللہ نے آدم اور نوح اور آل ابراہیم اور آل عمران کو سب جہانوں کے مقابل پر چن لیا. ان میں سے بعض کی ذریت میں سے ہیں، اور اللہ بہت سننے والا اور دائمی علم رکھنے والا ہے. جب عمران کی ایک عورت نے کہا، اے میرے رب، جو کچھ بھی میرے پیٹ میں ہے یقیناً وہ میں نے تیری نظر کر دیا، دنیا کے جھمیلوں سے آزاد کرتے ہوئے، پس تو مجھ سے قبول کر لے، یقیناً تو ہی بہت سننے والا اور بہت جاننے والا ہے.
Rashid Mubashir, English translation.
Assalamu alaikum. The English translation of the verses just recited before you is as follows. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. Say, obey Allah and the Messenger. But if they turn away, then remember that Allah loves not the disbelievers. Allah did choose Adam and Noah and the family of Abraham and the family of Imran above all peoples, a race correlated with one another, and Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. Remember when the woman of Imran said, My Lord, I have vowed to thee what is in my womb, to be dedicated to thy service. So do accept it of me. Verily, thou alone art all-hearing, all-knowing.
Suhaib Ahmad Nazm.
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ. منظوم کلام حضرت مسلم موعود رضی اللہ تعالیٰ عنہ. میں اپنے پیاروں کی نسبت ہرگز نہ کروں گا پسند کبھی. وہ چھوٹے درجے پہ راضی ہوں اور ان کی نگاہ رہے نیچی. وہ چھوٹی چھوٹی باتوں پر شیروں کی طرح غراتے ہوں، شیروں کی طرح غراتے ہوں. ادنا سا قصور اگر دیکھیں تو منہ میں کف بھر لاتے ہوں. اے میری الفت کے طالب، یہ میرے دل کا نقشہ ہے، یہ میرے دل کا نقشہ ہے. اب اپنے نفس کو دیکھ لے تو، وہ ان باتوں میں کیسا ہے. میں واحد کا ہوں دل دادا اور واحد میرا پیارا ہے، اور واحد میرا پیارا ہے. गर तू भी वाहिद बन जाए तो मेरी आँख का तारा है। तू एक हो सारी दुनिया में, कोई साझी और शरीक ना हो, कोई साझी और शरीक ना हो। तू सब दुनिया को दे लेकिन खुद तेरे हाथ में भीख ना हो। मैं अपने प्यारों की निस्बत हरगिज़ ना करूँगा पसंद कभी। वो छोटे दर्जे पे राज़ी हूँ और उनकी निगाह रहे नीची।
The report Ijtema, Secretary Waqf-e-Nau.
Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. My dear Hazur, Assalamu alaikum. Hazur, following your instructions after last year's Ijtema, the National Waqf-e-Nau Department renewed its efforts to instill tarbiyat in Waqf-e-Nau at a local level. We passed on your instructions to each and every Sadr at the beginning of the year and then proceeded to implement a tarbiyat plan across the country. We have held individual meetings with the majority of Sadran and have attended numerous general meetings to convey the message of tarbiyat. We have worked with the regional missionaries to focus on the tarbiyat of our Waqf-e-Nau at Jamaat meetings and events. We held a total of 20 tarbiyati classes in the regions with a program devised by Luqman Kishore Saab and implemented by Jamia. At each local and regional Waqf-e-Nau Ijtema, we focused on tarbiyat as a theme and ensured that this was central to the Ijtema. Hazur, today's Ijtema also had the theme of tarbiyat running through the program, especially for the younger age group. For the younger age group, the day started with a presentation on tarbiyat by Nisar Orchard Saab, followed by a presentation on etiquettes by Maulana Zartash Latif Sahib from Leicester. After this, they were given a presentation on the history of Islam by Maulana Zartash Safir Sahib from East region. Hazur, they also had a media-based question and answer session moderated by Maulana Raza Ahmad Sahib and Maulana Tahir Khalid Sahib. The elder Waqf-e-Nau were first given a presentation on life at Jamia by Hamza Sikandar Sahib, followed by a series of lectures. Dr. Anas Rana Sahib talked to them about career choices they should make as Waqf-e-Nau. This was followed by an inspiring address by Imam Sahib, whose topic was the true meaning of Waqf. Maulana Mansoor Clark Sahib then gave an interactive presentation on your instructions and guidance that you have given to Waqf-e-Nau. Osaf Basr Sahib then gave a presentation on the recent Waqf-e-Nau trip to Spain. Hazur, throughout the day we ran the National Waqf-e-Nau exam for all ages. This year we took a total of 1,310 exams for boys. Added to yesterday's figure of 1,154 exams taken for girls, this year we have taken a total of 2,464 exams. After lunch and namaz, the Waqf-e-Nau were treated to a very special detailed presentation on the life of Professor Dr. Abdul Salam by his son Ahmad Salam Sahib. Ahmad Sahib introduced his father's life and work before showing the Waqf-e-Nau a film that has recently been made on Dr. Sahib. Hazur, the Ijtema was aimed at all Waqf-e-Nau boys above the age of 7. Our records indicate that we have a total of 2,420 boys in this age group. The total attendance of Waqf-e-Nau at this year's Ijtema was 1,394. This is 58% of our registered tajneed. This compares to last year's attendance figure of 1,364, an increase of 30 boys. In terms of the 15 plus Waqf-e-Nau, we had a registered attendance of 567. This compares to a registered attendance of 532 last year, an increase of 35 boys. Hazur, along with guests, this gives a total attendance of 1,725 people at this year's event. Hazur, again this year, the National Ijtema team was led by Shahid Mahmood Saab, chairman of the Ijtema. He put together a large team of Waqf-e-Nau to plan and implement this Ijtema. I'd like to take this opportunity to convey the thanks of the Waqf-e-Nau department to Mir Saab and my colleagues in the UK Majlis-e-Amla for their help in the organisation of this Ijtema, especially the Ziafat, Sami Basri, General Secretary and Baitul Futuh management teams. Hazur, I'd also like to thank Raja Burhan Saab and Imam Saab who organised the tests to determine which child will recite the Tilawat, Nazm and translations at both the opening and closing sessions. We owe a huge debt of gratitude to Southern Majlis Khudam Ahmadiyya for the support provided. Majlis Khudam Ahmadiyya assisted us with the setup and were working alongside us throughout the Ijtema and took particular responsibility for the tarbiyat at this event. Hazur, we also owe a special thanks to Principal Jamia for his continuing invaluable support of this department. He again provided the team that takes and marks the exams, as well as providing support in every area of the running of this Ijtema. Hazur, we were very fortunate this year that Luqman Kishore Saab, in charge International Waqf-e-Nau, gave us a tremendous amount of time. He worked on the tarbiyat plan with myself and Sadr Saab. He organised our programme. He was on hand to advise on all aspects of the presentations given, the site setup, and all aspects of the Ijtema. But most of all, Hazur, we'd like to convey our most sincere thanks to Hazur for your continued prayers for Waqf-e-Nau. Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. With the grace of Allah, the numbers of Ahmadi parents who are dedicating the lives of their children for the sake of their faith continues to rise. And so each year thousands of children are being born into the Waqf-e-Nau scheme. You are all also amongst those fortunate people whose parents, prior to your birth, pledged your lives for the sake of Islam. And many of you have now reached an age of maturity. Some are in school, whilst many have completed their higher education. Having done so, some of you are now serving the Jamaat full-time as Waqf-e-Zindagi, whilst quite a number are now posted in the field as missionaries after completing their studies and training from Jamia Ahmadiyya. There are others who, with the permission of the Jamaat, are pursuing various professions. However, it is vitally important that those who are working privately must set aside as much time as possible for the service of their religion and should always keep in mind that they are Waqf-e-Nau. First and foremost, every member of the Waqf-e-Nau scheme should understand that his waqf is only of benefit and of real value if he has established a sincere connection with Allah, the Almighty. And the principal way to build a relationship with Allah, the Almighty, is through the worship of Allah and namaz. Hence, regardless of anything else, you must all be regular in offering the 5 daily prayers with a spirit of sincerity and devotion to Allah the Almighty. Furthermore, it is a religious obligation upon every Ahmadi Muslim man to offer their prayers in congregation. Consequently, those of you who live within a reasonable distance of a mosque or salat center must make every effort to attend congregational prayers. Namaz in congregation should be a daily and paramount feature of your lives. As I said, many Waqfeen-e-Nau have reached an age of maturity and understanding, and many have entered adulthood. Yet, never mind offering the 5 daily prayers in congregation. There are some who, upon being asked, admit that they do not even offer the 5 daily prayers regularly. What is the purpose and benefit of such a waqf? On the one hand, they have pledged their lives for the sake of Allah the Almighty. Yet, on the other hand, they remain neglectful of that part of their religion, the worship of Allah, which, after the declaration of faith, is the most fundamental obligation upon any Muslim. Therefore, remember that your vow to dedicate your life can only be of value and prove worthwhile if you act upon the commands of Allah the Almighty and remain staunchly devoted to Him at all times. If you are not fulfilling the basic duty of worship of Allah, how can it be possible to form a relationship of fidelity and sincerity with him. So, if you want to show that you are not just a Waqf-e-Nau in name, and that you have genuinely given your lives for the sake of Islam and are determined to fulfill the pledge made by your parents, you must prioritize this indispensable aspect of your faith. You must elevate your standards of worship and ensure that not a day goes by in which you fail to fulfill the primary obligation of offering the 5 daily prayers. Let it be clear that failure to do so will mean that your waqf is rendered entirely meaningless and futile. Furthermore, as members of Waqf-e-Nau, it is critical that you strive to act upon all the other commands of Allah, the Almighty, and to fulfill the rights of one another. The standards of Waqf-e-Nau, both in terms of fulfilling the Huququllah, the rights of Allah, and in discharging the Huququl Ibad, the rights of Allah's creation, must be far higher than others. In short, you should never sit back in contentment merely because your name is included in the list of the Waqf-e-Nau. Rather, you must understand the scale of your responsibilities and your everlasting obligation to your faith. At all times, it is your duty to better your moral standards and to increase your religious knowledge. Never forget that your parents pledged your lives for the sake of your religion and prayed for you. In this regard, it is important to remind all parents of Waqf-e-Nau children that from the very moment they dedicate the life of their unborn child for the sake of Jamaat, they should pray fervently that Allah the Almighty enables their child to fulfill the demands of Waqf. Similarly, parents must also pay close attention to the moral and religious training of their children and guide them on how to fulfill their Waqf. Now, after briefly addressing the parents, just few points, I turn my attention back to the Waqfeen-e-Nau. You must all understand your responsibilities and the standards expected of a Waqf-e-Zindagi. In essence, Waqf means to fulfill the rights of Allah the Almighty, the rights of His creation, and to constantly strive to advance your knowledge and to raise your moral and spiritual standards. It means to practice your religion at all times and in all circumstances. Indeed, it is not enough to know your faith, rather you must practice it in all respects. As Waqfeen-e-Nau, you must know the expectations of the Promised Messiah Islam. What did he desire from the members of the Jamaat, and especially of those Ahmadis who pledged their lives for the sake of Islam? For this, you must read the books and writings of the Prophet Messiah Islam, where he has, on many occasions, clearly stated his expectations. I shall also now mention in my own words some of the blessed guidance of the Prophet Messiah Islam in this regard. On one occasion, the Prophet Messiah Islam said that if a person desires a pure life and to attain the bounties of the hereafter, it requires them to strive and struggle to reach that point where they can sincerely claim that their life, their death, their sacrifices, and their prayers are all for the sake of Allah the Almighty. The Prophet Messiah Islam said that just like Hazrat Ibrahim Islam, the voice of our hearts should pronounce and declare that I have become utterly submissive to my Lord. With great clarity, the Prophet Messiah Islam said that a person who does not meticulously follow the commands of Allah and fails to recognize that the worship of Allah is his life's overriding objective cannot attain this status of a true believer. Thus, you should understand that even though you are living in a Western society, you must live your lives in an Islamic way, seeking to attain the pleasure of Allah the Almighty. You must resolutely keep hold of your religious values and traditions. You must bring about those pious changes in your life that will enable you to fulfill the rights of Allah the Almighty and His creation. You must always seek to improve and better yourself and to raise your spiritual and moral standards and increase your knowledge, religious knowledge. The Prophet Messiah Islam also taught that those who associated themselves with him should devote their lives to their faith in the same way he did. So we must keep the great personal example of the Prophet Messiah Islam firmly within our rights, within our sights at all times. During his life, the Prophet Messiah Islam devoted his every day and every night for the sake of Islam, till his final breath. Every moment of the Prophet Messiah Islam's life was spent in fulfilling his divine mission to revive and spread the true teachings of Islam throughout the world. For example, on one occasion, the Prophet Messiah Islam said that he continued to work until he felt as though he was about to collapse due to extreme exhaustion. Only at that point of complete fatigue would the Prophet Messiah Islam lie down and rest for a short period. This was the noble example of the Prophet Messiah Islam, and it is our task to follow in his blessed footsteps. I have no doubt that if the members of Waqf-e-Nau are able to collectively follow his example, even to a very small degree, they will be able to bring about a spiritual and moral revolution in the world. In terms of your work, as you enter adulthood, it is not essential that you will all be called into the full-time service of the Jamaat. As I said earlier, many of you, with the permission of the Jamaat, are employed elsewhere. However, wherever you are working, you must not let the world consume you and overtake your lives. Rather, your first priority must always remain your work. You must strive to excel in the worship of Allah the Almighty and persistently endeavor to increase your moral and spiritual state and to increase your religious knowledge. Irrespective of where you are working or living, you must live your life as a practical manifestation of Islam's teachings and seek to propagate your religion far and wide. Utilize your God-given capabilities and skills for the sake of your faith. Only if you live your life in this way will you be living as a true Waqf-e-Nau. On one occasion, the Prophet Muhammad referred to the fact that Allah the Almighty has praised Hazrat Ibrahim in the Holy Quran with the words, "Wa Ibrahim allazi wafa," and of Abraham who fulfilled the commandments. This verse means that Hazrat Ibrahim fulfilled the pledge he made to God Almighty with complete obedience and loyalty, and as a result was the recipient of the love of his Creator. Now it is up to all of you to fulfill the sacred covenant you have made with Allah the Almighty. To do so is not an easy or simple thing. The pledge of a Waqf-e-Zindagi and of a Waqf-e-Nau is a vast and everlasting undertaking. It is to give away your life for the sake of your faith. As I have said already, it requires you to continually improve your standards of worship and enhance your moral and spiritual state. Unquestionably, if all the Waqfeen-e-Nau fulfill their pledges, we will certainly witness a great revolution and spiritual transformation in the world. However, there is a very long way to go. Sometimes young married couples come to meet me and the husband proudly says, or the wife, that I am a Waqf-e-Nau, my wife or my husband is Waqf-e-Nau, and now is our child. It is good that their entire family is part of that blessed scheme. However, as I have said many times, just holding the title of Waqf-e-Nau is meaningless. It becomes meaningful when a member of a Waqf-e-Nau understands the demands of their pledge and faithfully strives to fulfill it to the best of their abilities. To honor your pledge requires constant effort, great passion, and enormous sacrifices. It requires complete devotion to your Creator. The Prophet ﷺ once said that the means to gain Allah's nearness is to manifest complete submission to Allah, the Almighty, in the way of Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ, who sacrificed his entire being and tolerated every possible hardship for the sake of Allah. It is for this reason that Allah the Almighty has testified to the obedience and sincerity of Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ in the Holy Quran. Hence, this is the standard which every member of Waqf-e-Nau should strive to emulate. At another place, the Prophet ﷺ said that true loyalty and sincerity to God Almighty requires the death of one's own desires and aspirations. It requires that a person gladly forsakes all of his personal and material desires and is ready to tolerate all forms of rejection and humiliation for the sake of Allah the Almighty. Furthermore, the Prophet ﷺ said that idol worship does not simply mean to worship a tree or stone or such like. Rather, anything and everything that stands in the way of a person gaining the nearness of Allah the Almighty and takes precedence over Him, over Allah the Almighty, is a form of idol worship. All of you should deeply reflect upon this point and assess your own lives to see if you are being taken away from your faith by the many worldly activities and superficial pursuits that are common today. If such material interests cause a person to forget Allah, the Almighty, how can he or she claim to follow the example of loyalty and obedience displayed by Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ, or to reach the standards expected by the Prophet ﷺ? Though many Waqfeen-e-Nau are busy with their professions or business, they must not let their worldly work interfere with their worship of Allah the Almighty. Similarly, children who play computer games or have other hobbies must ensure that these pursuits do not lead them to neglecting their prayers and religious duties. Instead, they must develop the habit of leaving such things, where it is time for namaz, and to ensure that their faith always takes priority over worldly matters. The Prophet ﷺ said that the members of his Jamaat should remember that until a person is completely sincere in their devotion to Allah the Almighty and willing to endure every trial and tribulation for His sake, they will not attain true morality and righteousness. Hence, this is the standard of loyalty to your faith required to gain the nearness and blessings of Allah the Almighty. As I mentioned before, just being a part of the Waqf-e-Nau scheme and having this title is nothing to be proud of. Therefore, if someone informs me that he, his wife, and children are all Waqf-e-Nau, they should realize that this alone means nothing. Until and unless they solemnly strive to reach the high standards of obedience required by the Prophet Muhammad, until you prioritize your religion over all worldly matters, being part of Waqf-e-Nau is just worthless. In addition, you must always pray for yourselves that Allah, the Almighty, helps you to fulfill your duties and responsibilities to your faith. Here, I also wish to remind the younger boys who are still in Atfal, as well as the Khudam, that as Waqf-e-Nau, you must be very active members of Atfal al-Ahmadiyya and Khudam al-Ahmadiyya. You should be role model for the other Atfal and Khudam and be ready for any duty or sacrifice required. Furthermore, the standard of worship of Waqf-e-Nau should be higher than other Ahmadis. As I have said, you must be diligent in offering namaz in congregation, and you should recite the Holy Quran every day. Only then can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. Alongside the obligatory prayers, the older Waqf-e-Nau boys should offer nafil prayers regularly. Only then can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. Additionally, the older Atfal and all members of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya should carefully read the translation of the Holy Quran and study the commentaries of the Prophet Muhammad and the Khulafa. You should identify the commands of Allah the Almighty and be determined to act upon them to the best of your abilities. Only then can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. At all times, the conduct and manner of a Waqf-e-Nau should be of the highest order. Only then can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. Furthermore, whilst all Atfal and Khudam should dress appropriately and should speak and interact with others in a respectful and moral way, Waqf-e-Nau should have even higher standards. Only then can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. Compared to girls, boys are more easily influenced by the immodesty and indecency prevalent in the modern society. However, our boys should always guard their modesty and not fall prey to immoral and indecent activities. Only then can you call yourself a Waqf-e-Nau. You should respect your parents, listen to them, care for them, and pray for them. Only then can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. Likewise, treat your brothers and sisters with love and affection and set a pious example for them to learn from. Only then can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. If you are married, you must set the best possible example for your wife and children. Treat them with love and care and fulfill their needs. Strive earnestly to ensure that the next generation of Ahmadis remains faithfully attached to the Jamaat. Only then can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. Similarly, those of you who are looking to get married should seek pious Ahmadi girls so that your future generations are raised in a righteous environment. Only if you are playing your role in protecting the future of your Jamaat can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. You should also be strong in body and strong in mind. You should be ready for hard work and any service for the sake of your faith. You should be ready to tolerate all challenges and to make all necessary sacrifices for the sake of the Jamaat. Only then can you call yourself a true Waqf-e-Nau. In terms of tabligh, Waqf-e-Nau should be at the forefront and consider it their personal duty to spread Islam's teachings. For this purpose, you must be armed with religious knowledge. Hence, I reiterate the importance of trying to understand the deeper meanings of the Holy Quran and to read the books and magazines published by our Jamaat. Only then can you call yourself be a true Waqf-e-Nau. Moreover, always remember that it is the duty of a Waqf-e-Nau to propagate the mission and objectives of the Khalifa Waqf and to be his constant helper. You can only do this if you are completely obedient to Khilafat. Only if you are following the guidance and instructions of Khalifa Waqf can you urge others to do the same. Whilst all Ahmadis should make it a regular habit to listen to my Friday sermons and other programs, it is especially vital that Waqfeen-e-Nau listen and take notes and reflect upon what I have said and try to inculcate whatever they learn into their daily lives. Furthermore, a Waqf-e-Nau should be free from all forms of arrogance and pride. Instead, humility and forbearance ought to be your hallmarks. Only if you try to develop all of these qualities will you be able to gain the pleasure and nearness of Allah the Almighty. May Allah the Almighty enable all of you to understand your duties and responsibilities and to fulfill the demands of Waqf in the very best way. Whether you are working full-time for the Jamaat or working privately, you must strive to fulfill that sacred pledge made by your parents before your birth. May Allah the Almighty enable you to continue to increase your knowledge and understanding of your faith. May He grant you the capability to elevate your moral and spiritual standards, and may He enable you to continually increase your service to the Jamaat and to fulfill your pledge with true sincerity. Ameen. Now join me in silent prayer. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.